Molly Oyua from Sacred Fire Creative. Thank you so much for being on live with us today. I really appreciate it. What we do at Sacred Fire is we help women and minority entrepreneurs get their message out through web design and marketing. And today I have a very special guest who is near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to take the time to read an introduction about her that she wrote, actually. So it's just going to give you a little bit more of a background. So we have Gabrielle McCormick, and she is the founder and Chief Education Officer. I was going to say executive, but Chief Education Officer of Scholarship Informer. And so if you're seeing this live, please go ahead and share it. That would be great. We want to definitely get her message out to more people. And so let's see, while earning well over $150,000 in scholarships to pay for her bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees, Gabrielle realized that she also wanted other students to be able to experience the same financial freedom. Scholarship Informer has been featured in USA Today, Money, CNBC as a resource that teaches students and families the strategies that have helped her graduate from college debt-free. Her students have won awards ranging from $500 to full ride scholarships to attend notable institutions such as Texas A&M, Penn State, Vanderbilt, and many others from across the country. Her ultimate goal is to make college affordable for anyone that wishes to attend by equipping families with the best tools to win scholarships. So thank you so much for being on today. Gabrielle, do you want to just say hi? Anything else you want to add for our audience?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I think you covered everything in the bio, and sometimes it doesn't even sound like myself just because scholarships really have changed my life. And so anytime I hear that, I'm so grateful and humbled by it. But again, thank you so much for inviting me today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on. And we see you if you are on live. Feel free to say in the comments where you're watching from or just say hi and let us know that you can hear us. That would be great. Yes. Also, if you're watching us on the replay, thank you so much for watching and for helping us spread the word. It's really important, and it's a cause that's near and dear to Gabrielle's heart. And it's a message that is very important for me to share as well. And so thanks so much. One of the things I wanted to mention for anyone who's watching who's part of eWomen Network, that is how Gabrielle and I met. And we met at the eWomen Network conference. She was actually the winner of the Emerging Leader Award in 2014, which was the first conference I went to. And so, Gabrielle, was that something that kind of spearheaded your work, or how did that impact you?
Well, actually, eWomen is where my business was born, and a lot of people don't know that. But I started going to the conference at 19, so this past year was maybe conference number 8, I think. But my internship sent me, and so I would go. I would always be the youngest person there, and then they would find out, a little bit about me, and they would say, "Well, why aren't you on the stage?" And I was like, "I'm not old enough to be nominated for the award." And so I was finally old enough to be nominated, and my chapter nominated me, and so that was really the first time I was able to utilize a platform that large to get my message out on what I was doing to help people pay for college.
Wow. Okay, that is wonderful. We didn't even script that, you guys.
No, we didn't.
Prepare that. So I just want to say that is so impressive. So 8 years you had been going to conference. I didn't even know this. So I just learned that you're from the Dallas area. And of course, when I go to conference myself, I spend a lot of time with my Dallas faves. And so it's a wonderful community. And so I love that they were able to nominate you when you were eligible and that you were able to win that award. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
So your business actually was spearheaded within the network. And then was it that award that started it, or did you start it beforehand?
So I would be the youngest person at the conference, and people would say, "You're so young, why are you here?" And I would say, "My internship sent me. I'm really interested in business." And they would find out a little bit more about my story. And so from that, they would say, "Well, can you talk to my niece? Can you talk to my nephew? Can you talk to my daughter about scholarships?" And that's where the company was born. And so it used to be called something else a long time ago. But after that, it really evolved as I was finishing up my degrees. It evolved into Scholarship Informer today. And so that's really how it got started within eWomen Network.
Wonderful. So this is kind of like going off the path.
That's fine.
I totally didn't prepare this. But one of the things that I love, okay, so you're pointing out that you are young and you're getting so much done. So, you know, your bachelor's and your advanced degrees, and now you have this company. And so I've actually met a handful of people along the way, along my path, who have said that they received scholarships throughout their school and or that helped them through school, and that they had thought of this idea. So it's not like this unique idea,
right.
It's like something that, you know, people need. There's an obvious need for it. But the other thing that I've noticed along the way is that all of those people who had this idea, they didn't know how to make it a business or how to implement it.
Right.
So was that a struggle for you in the beginning, or how did you overcome all of that?
That's a great question. I actually had no idea how I was going to make it a business initially. I thought, well, I can just work with people one-on-one, which that is one of the services that we offer. But I realized that I wasn't going to be able to help as many families if I was only doing one-on-one. And then with students being so busy and families being so busy, even hosting classes was to some degree impossible. And so we really focused on the membership model, which allows students to come in and get tutoring for scholarships and get assistance on a one-on-one basis, as well as having that education component, office hours, etc., to be able to make sure that we're there when they need us, which may not be the traditional 9 to 5. It could be 11 o'clock at night. We do get requests at 11 o'clock at night. And so it's one of those things we wanted to be where the student was and where their family was.
Okay, that's so perfect. So as an entrepreneur, many of us have realized that, you know, going along, especially in a service-based industry, there's a point in time where the one-on-one just becomes a little too much, a little overwhelming, or it becomes, you realize that you can't serve as many people with that, right? So I love that you realized that right away, and then you said, okay, even doing groups is still not enough. So on to this membership model. So can you tell us, you mentioned a little bit about it. So you have a team, and you answer questions even 11 o'clock at night.
Yes,
Hopefully not.
So, you know, sometimes it happens, and it's one of those things. It took me a while to figure out the best way to monetize what I was doing. And a lot of people to this day think that we're a nonprofit because they say, well, how were you able to help so many people? How do you get paid? That's a question we get asked all the time. But really, for me, it was a matter of, while we do have paid resources, I wanted us to have enough free resources for those families that could not afford to work with someone one-on-one, because we all run into, as entrepreneurs, people that cannot afford our services. For some people, we're too cheap. For other people, we're too expensive. And so it's one of those things. I wanted to make sure I had a library of resources that competed with well-known companies out there, and really, you know, kind of move the curtain back so they could see behind the scenes. This is how, if you really want to do it on your own, this is how you go about doing it. So I kind of joke and tell people we're kind of like the Netflix, YouTube Khan Academy of scholarships. You know, we have those free resources, but if you really want to work with someone, we have the opportunity for you to do that. So we have, you know, a model that's very interesting when it comes to how we market our services. But for me, it's more so, even if I just expose you to the ideas, even if you're buying a $7 organizer and planner that we have, you at least have the tools to be able to go out and really do something with that. When you get the money, if you want additional assistance, we have something that's affordable.
Wonderful. So I see some people on live.
Awesome.
If you're watching, please go ahead and type in the comments any questions that you have for Gabrielle. I know that I am, you know, her captive audience right now, so I can ask a few questions. And I have a ton. I just stacked up a few more questions in my head based on what she just said. But feel free to type in the comments. Also, let us know where you're watching from. I'm here from Portland, Oregon, or just outside of Portland, Oregon. And Gabrielle is from Dallas, the Dallas area. And so we would love to hear from you. And definitely, if you're on the replay, go ahead and type in the comments. Let us know any questions, and we'll be sure to get those to Gabrielle as well.
Yes.
So I think that's wonderful that you have resources that are free. You also have resources that are paid. And so to get behind that paywall, people are accessing your membership site. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then behind that, you also have one-on-one services. So if they become a member, do they also get some of those services, or is that like a separate offering?
It's a separate offering because one of our programs where a lot of our students are most successful, it's a 3-month program. And it's one of those things we just want to make sure all of our families, we have relationships with them. We know about their family history. We know about, their past. We know their academic track record. We know information about their financials, etc. Because it is about having that real and honest conversation about paying for college. So we ask a lot of questions. And so it's a more intimate relationship, which is why I can only work with so many people each and every quarter, etc. Because I really do invest a lot of time making sure that we have a strategy that is realistic for families to follow.
Okay. So is the 3-month program you're talking about, is that part of the membership site, or is that your
It's separate. It's separate. It's our high tier program, but it's a separate program for the membership site.
So with the membership site, they're able to kind of like learn on their own and go through the steps that you would go through, and you kind of teach them virtually, or you have courses on there, or just like a resource library available to them?
It's a combination of everything you just said. So we have some additional training. We do some bonus training and sessions with them. We have office hours where literally I have a group of moms. They show up every Sunday. It never fails. And we literally talk about a plan that they can implement with their student, because so many students, they're stressed out with exams, with studying for a standardized test, etc., getting ready for the ACT, SAT, working. And so their parents are really the ones that are supporting them a lot in the process. And so we make sure that the parents are educated in knowing how to make sure that their student can move through this process accordingly. So we also work with parents. So that's one entity. Then students will upload their scholarship essays. Our editors will review them, give them feedback, so they're submitting something that's competitive. We have behind the scenes footage of how I would actually go about applying for scholarships. So a lot of different resources to make sure that you don't get stuck.
Okay, so this is awesome. So something that you just opened my eyes to, it's not just about finding the scholarships, it's about making sure they're successful, actually like holding their hand through the process.
Yes.
And there's different levels because, as you mentioned, some people, are under a tight budget, and some people, will have some smaller resources to be able to support their education. So, you're looking at supporting a whole range of people who are looking for free resources, or in the membership site, like your library, or just, all the way up to your highest tier, which is your one-on-one advice, and really holding their hand through the whole process, even editing their essays. I think
yes.
Yes. So how do people get started on the scholarship process?
So the first place to start is really by looking at yourself. We have a terminology or term that we use around Scholarship Informer, and that's the scholarship profile. Anytime, even if we have people that are watching this and you come to the site to ask us questions, it's a matter of, we will get you started by saying, hey, go fill out your scholarship profile. Essentially, that's everything about your family, about yourself, your student's major, minor, etc. And you utilize that as a starting point, because there is a scholarship out there for everything. Scholarships are the new marketing material. I've seen scholarships for video games. And so all of those little things, they add up and they count. But if you're not considering that about your family, then you're overlooking at sometimes millions of dollars that could go towards helping your family reduce the cost of college.
I love this. So we did a question. So thank you, Evan Paulden, for showing us. Let's see. He's got a question here. He says, watching from Commerce, do you have services for students who are in college as well, or just high school? So that's a great question.
Great question. Thank you, Evan, for asking. So our services are for anyone in the scholarship process. That could be traditional students, non-traditional students, high school students. That could be, we've even advised and helped some middle schoolers. Parents are getting started very early now. So if anyone is interested, we have a service or some type of information. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that the process is the same for every level of education. The things I did to pay for my doctorate are the same things I did for my bachelor's and for my MBA. So it's about having a strategy more so than about, just focusing on, oh, well, I only do these things senior year. There are some small nuances, but overall, it's the same strategy each and every level of education as you move up.
Awesome. So Evan, let us know if that answers your question, or if you have any others. Thank you so much for asking that question, for sure. It's really, it's interesting to me. So I know that, typically I think of high school students too, when I'm thinking about scholarships. And something that you mentioned before we is something that I want to be sure to bring up. But how soon can people start looking for scholarships? Like, how soon is too soon?
You can win scholarships starting in kindergarten. There is a $30,000 scholarship called the Doodle for Google Scholarship. So we all have seen the Google logo that's above the search engine box. And you know how the artwork for that changes. Well, that's the scholarship. They post a theme every year. And I don't foresee Google going out of business anytime soon. So if your student is in kindergarten and they win that money, Google will hold the money until they're ready to go to college. Because I know some people are thinking, well, where does the money go if they should win and they're not a high school senior? The money will be held. So it's for students K through 12. And I believe it's normally due in November. I could be wrong on that. But it's one of those things, just Google it. No pun intended, but make sure you look it up. I can be a little corny, but make sure you look it up and that you find and locate the scholarship. But it's one you can apply for it each and every year. And it's one of those things where it's a fun scholarship. And I think sometimes we focus on the more serious, essay-based, etc. But it's one of those, you're just doodling. You're just doodling.
I love that. And so let's see. Evan says you did answer the question.
Okay,
thank you. So really, that's great. And if you have more, feel free to type them in the comments, definitely. And as far as your corny joke, I really hope my husband's watching because I get my fair share of corny jokes, and they're like my favorite. I had no idea, Gabrielle, we had this in common. So
Yes.
yeah, Google, the Google scholarship.
Yeah.
And so I think that's amazing that, kindergartners can win scholarships. And
Yes.
so when you mentioned that earlier, I didn't realize that Google would hold that money for them. And that
Yes.
would like them even more. I don't know if that's like fair or whatever, but I think it's great that, that they have something like that available.
They will give money. The student will win, and they'll also donate, I believe it's $20,000 to their school for certain resources, etc. So it's a win-win-win for everyone involved. The school wins, the student wins, and then Google gets to feature some amazing artwork that keeps us interested and on our toes, because you never know what's going to be up there from day to day. So,
wow, it seems like more schools should be participating in this.
They should.
I mean, it seems like a win-win. Like, get all the students to submit their applications, and the school can also win. So I think that's great. That's really interesting. So, all right. So you have another question here because you are popular. So Jordan Denise says, do you travel for one-on-ones or is it all online based?
Good question. So most of the traveling that I do, it's normally for a speaking engagement or a workshop at a church, school, or organization, nonprofit, those kinds of things. All of our work is online because I believe it's a lot easier to feel like you're just Skyping with someone. When you're talking about intimate details of your life and maybe why you couldn't afford to go to school or things that have happened that have created what I call grade blemishes. But things happen to people. Students are bullied. People pass away. Life happens. And so I just feel like it allows us to feel like we're at a coffee shop, we're in the library, or we're somewhere just that's a really, one-on-one place, but it's online. We do so much online. And then I can also record the sessions because it can sometimes feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant when I give a lot of information. And so at least if it's recorded, then you can go back and review that and always have access to it. And I learned that some of these meetings you go in, you think you understand, you leave, and you don't have it recorded, and you can't ask questions, etc. So that's why really one of the primary reasons why we do a lot of things online is just so that we can simply record it and you can have access to it forever.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that question. It's a great question.
Yes, thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. And I never really thought about that. The advantage of having that interaction online is a little bit of privacy also. Right. You're not in a coffee shop or you're not in a live area, and that you have access to that when you are ready to review the materials, because you may be asking at a time where it's not quite, the right time for you.
Right.
Back to it. So I think that's great. And those are some great reasons to do that. I think it is, in this day and age, really easy for people to, make that connection online more so than just meeting in person.
Yeah.
Do you you that ability to reach people who are not just in your local area. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we get messages from students that are in India. They're overseas in general. And sometimes it's like, how are you even finding us? Because we're a brand new site. We haven't been around that long, but people are out there really searching for scholarships and for information. And so I always tell people, we don't want to be like another well-known scholarship site. I want people to feel like when they come, they are talking to someone. And all of our employees and everyone that answers any question, if they're not a student, they have student loans or they've won scholarships, and they really understand and can empathize with families and say, hey, I know where you are. I was just there a few years ago, or I'm there right now. And I think that's really what makes us different, because everyone always says, I feel like I'm talking to a real person and not some type of automated system. And so I think that's the power, and something as entrepreneurs we have to remember is that even though we're online, people want to talk to real people, and they want to feel like they're engaging with an actual person and not just a script or with someone that's just trying to rush us off of the conversation by giving us canned information.
That's great. Yeah. And, you know, coming from the marketing side of things, I think a lot about what I would call like the customer experience.
Right.
So, you know, you're looking at, you have a very high touch model of the customer experience. So you want them to feel individually important. And I think you do a great job of it. I think it comes across really well too, even as you're, you know, in this interview, you can tell that you really care. You have a lot of passion for what you're doing. And so that comes through in your business, and it shows in the model of your business and how it was created and how you're walking through the steps with people, not just so that you can say you have this database or anything like that, but so that you can create some real results for people.
Right. No, you've hit the nail on the head, because for me, it's about everything we do is impacting someone's financial future and their legacy. So if we're not doing a good job of that, then people are someone could drop out of college, or they may not enter and be in the career field that they want to be in because they don't have the money to finish their degree. Now, is college for everyone? No, of course not. But for the people that really want to go and want to enter the career world in an industry that they're passionate about, why not help those people go to school? Why not help them reduce the cost of college? Because that impacts everyone's future. You know, we don't know where the cure for cancer could be. We don't know where the cure for, or the solution for global warming could be. You know, there are all of these different issues that we face as a country that I think that, you know, if more students were placed in environments where they could learn to think critically, that they would be able to go out there and address some of these topics and issues that we're having. And so really, you know, that's how I really think about things. How is this going to help someone really impact their family? But more importantly, how does it impact the future?
Wonderful. So, and I love everything that you're doing. And you're really speaking my language when you're saying that it's for people's financial freedom and that they're leaving their legacy. I mean, that's all something that's so important to me. And, you know, just backing up to a few things that you had mentioned before, you had talked about students from India reaching out.
Yes.
So you have students kind of internationally, but are you focused on U.S. scholarships or kind of all over?
Now, because most of our students are from the U.S., that primarily is where we focus a lot of our time. But there are scholarships that are open to students regardless of where they're located in the country, because we do have some students that they do not want to go to a school in the United States. They want to go to a school somewhere else overseas in a different country. And so because of that, we try to make sure that we have a good balance, or at least can point them in the right direction. But we primarily focus on students that want to go to school in the United States.
Wonderful. And so one of the questions I had, so in eWomen Network, you may have met Diana Hoff. And she is, you know, from our chapter here locally, and she's a great friend of mine. And she's like our nonprofit specialist, you know, like the go-to. And not that you're a nonprofit, but one of the things she focuses on is providing scholarships to high achieving students.
Right.
So, but my question to you, because you mentioned some of that, I forget what you called it, but the bonuses.
Oh yeah, the academic bonuses.
Academic bonuses. So what about all those students who are not high achieving? I mean, do they have an opportunity to get scholarships as well, or what recommendations do you have for those students?
Community service is always the best place to start looking. Make sure that you're documenting any community service that your family or student is participating in. Make sure you verify those hours. That's very, very important. But I've seen scholarships that just require students to have 10 hours, which is not that much. But you have students that are competing that have well over 200 because it's part of their high school curriculum. But I always tell people, look at community service, look at any student organizations that you may be involved in, look at your hobbies. Again, we've got the Doodling Scholarship, but there are scholarships on social media. There was a $2,500 Instagram scholarship not too long ago, and you just had to post a photo about your goals. That's super simple, especially if you're already on Instagram. So it's one of those things. Make sure that you are looking at all of the places where you actually kind of live, and that could be online or offline, because there could be scholarships there that don't look at GPA, they don't look at test scores, etc.
Wonderful. All right. And Kay says, Kay Hatfield, thanks for watching. She says, great information. Thank you.
Thanks, Kay.
And thank you so much for watching too. If you are watching, feel free to type in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for Gabrielle, keep them coming, definitely. And if we can't answer them live, we'll definitely get them to Gabrielle so she can have her team, or she will be able to answer them after the show. One of the things that kind of backing up to what we were talking about before, I know, so we were talking about, the different kinds of students who are coming to you. And one of the things I'm curious about, so it seems like the earlier a student comes to you, the more that you can prepare them to be on the right path to get the scholarships that they want. Is that what you mean by having a strategy for scholarships?
Yes, exactly. Because it's one of those things, I kind of look at high school as being 4 quarters. And the first quarter is when you start to build the lead. By halftime, which is that summer in between sophomore and junior year, you need to kind of have something figured out. And it doesn't mean that you have to know your major all the time, as long as you know what you want to do. And that could just be the impact you want to make in the world. That's fine. But you don't want to start experimenting and trying out new strategies to some degree senior year, because you really put a lot of pressure on yourself. And I started the process late. I would not recommend starting as late as I did, but it happened because scholarships, that was my backup plan. I didn't go into college thinking I was going to major in scholarships, but it was one of those things where you want to get started as early as possible, even if it's just experimenting with some of the different application types that are available for students that are in middle school, elementary school, etc., so that when it gets time for high school, that you've at least been exposed to the concepts. So get started as soon as possible, even if it's just talking with someone. We offer free sessions where we'll spend about 20 minutes helping your family develop a strategy. Even if it's just setting up some time to speak with us, that can at least allow you to understand, okay, based on their grades and things that they do now, this is where the gaps are, and this is something that we need to focus on moving forward.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And so other than getting started early, what's like the biggest mistake that you see that you want people to avoid, and that you want to advise people on?
Be authentic. And I tell a lot of people, they think that they should write an essay that describes the perfect them, but I think that committees really want to understand, what challenges have you faced? How have you overcome these things? What is it that you want to do? What impact, again, do you want to leave? But I think you need to be vulnerable. And for me, senior year was a really tough time because I had torn my Achilles, my grandfather passed away, and so my identity was shifting and changing. And so I used my essays as a way to express myself. And I wasn't, at first I was like, should I really tell them this? And sometimes that's a question that you have. It's like, should I really be saying this in my essay? It's not a diary. By no means is it a personal diary, but it is a chance for you to show the power in whatever should have happened for you to go from tragedy to triumph. And I think if you position it that way and really just speak to who you are, your values, etc., that you will be submitting a more competitive application as opposed to students that are just, sending that canned essay, because we can definitely tell when it's canned and it's not something that you spent some quality time thinking about. So.
Wonderful. That is such great advice. I definitely know that, it helps to, you're not writing a personal diary, but
right. This is not a diary entry at all.
So if you're watching this, make sure it's not a personal diary, but you are sharing how you transformed, you're making, well, as Sandra Yancey would say, she's the founder of eWomen Network. She says, make your mess your message.
Yes,
how do you
exactly.
Transform what happened to you? What is your story into where you are today or where you want to be? because I think that, we're always ever evolving, or we're, for me, it's this, we're on this journey and we're never quite there, because if you're there, then you're not, you don't have any ambitions left.
None. Your goals are too small. Yeah. If you feel like you're there, your goals are too small.
That's right. If your goals are, and so you don't want your goals to be too small. And that's part of it. You want to be able to show the academic committee or whoever's reviewing your application that you know where you want to be, even if that changes. So that's the other thing, is to not be afraid that might change in the future. So for me, some people know that my background is as an aerospace engineer. So I went to MIT. I did get scholarships to go and everything like that, and for me, it's led me to this path in marketing, I think partly because I want to be able to help, like I said, women and minority entrepreneurs, and really, transform what they're doing in the world. So, that requires for me more of a public platform than the military and private institutions that I was working with. Yeah. And so I still feel the same way. I still feel that same passion of how are we impacting this world? How are we making greater impact on the world? And I hear that in you and in what you're saying. And so I love that you're sharing your values through what you do, and you're asking people to be authentic and sharing their values in what they're doing. So I love that. Thank you.
No. This has been a great conversation, just because I think a lot of people see us as entrepreneurs and think that we, have everything figured out. But because we are evolving and continuing to develop as people, that is reflected in our business model and the things that we're doing and showing and putting out to the world. And so, I think it's been a phenomenal conversation. It's been really fun.
Thanks so much, Gabrielle. So I know that you are actually quite a celebrity now. I'm honored to have you on this Facebook Live. But you've also been featured in USA Today. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about, what we can see from you in the future?
So I will be on national TV. That's the extent of what I can say there. But I will be in some major media coming up very, very soon. And so it's one of those things, if you are watching this, whether live or the recording, if you have questions, please make sure you reach out now, just because I want to make sure that we're able to get to you in as timely of a manner as possible. And even if you reach out later, we will still get to you, but just be patient with us. But it's one of those things, we're continuing to leave our mark all across the country, working with colleges, working with junior colleges, trying to work more with high schools and more students there, and even going as low, as middle school per se. And so it's just one of those things, we're trying to do what we can in making higher education something that's realistic and not something that's scary for a lot of people.
Wonderful. So is there anything that you would do, you want people to take action on as we're wrapping up the show?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, first you have to analyze where you are right now in the process. If you don't have a scholarship profile or you have no clue what that is, make sure you go to our website, www.scholarshipinformer.com, just because that will explain everything there. We've got limited time, and so I know that there's a lot of information, and you will get to the site and you may be a little overwhelmed. So go to the Start Here page there, because it lays everything out and gives you clear expectations. We are humans that are running that site. It's not just a group of people behind their computer typing away. We really make sure to engage with our tribe and with our community, because I want to put out things that are helping you as a student or as a parent that's watching this, that's really helping you understand the college process. So I would say the best place is just going to be really our Start Here page. You'll be able to schedule a session with me. We have scholarship text alerts that we send out here and there. And so all of those different avenues that maybe are going to be more beneficial for your family based on your schedule, etc., all of that's right on our website, and I would highly encourage you to check it out. Go to our Facebook page. We're on Twitter at Scholarship Talk, and so any of those places, engage with us, connect with us. We're more than happy to help.
Wonderful. So I put up the URL so you guys can see, scholarshipinformer.com. Please go there, use the Start Here button, And if you get overwhelmed, definitely reach out to them. They're also on Facebook and Twitter. And Gabrielle, before we wrap up, anything else that you want to add that we didn't get to cover?
I would say that, and I'll show you this visual that we talked about a little bit. And I'll try to make sure that it's not a big glare, but it says that I kind of ruined my life by going to college. This is something that I used to hold up, and it's a Consumer Report. It was put out last August, and this is nothing against Consumer Reports. We still subscribe, of course. But it's one of those things where when I saw that, I kept it visible in my home office at all times, because it's unfortunate that a lot of people feel like going to college does ruin their life. I thoroughly enjoyed my college experience, and I'm sure you did too at MIT. It's one of those things, it's not something I would ever trade. And I think that some people, even if they have a lot of student loans now, and I know they may question, was it really worth it? It's one of those things. College, the experience in itself really teaches you a lot about yourself, a lot about others, and a lot about the world, because it is a bubble to some degree. And so I think that my ultimate goal is just to make sure that people aren't afraid of the process. It can be scary, it can be intimidating, but it is doable if you pace yourself and if you understand that this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You will make mistakes. You will sometimes have to adjust, but that's life. And we always have to make adjustments because we just don't know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, next week, and the next month. And so as long as you're prepared for any road bumps along the way, I think that you'll be fine.
Wonderful. What an amazing message you have, Gabrielle. I'm so excited for you and for your success and for, helping all of these students and their families through this whole process, and that you continue to do so with such passion and such expertise. So thank you so much for all that you do and that you continue to do. And so I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on today on this Facebook Live. Really loved having you as a guest. And definitely you and I, I'm sure we'll see each other again and connect.
Yes.
And for anybody who's watching who wants to reach out to me, you can find me at sacredfirecreative.com. I also am on Facebook at Sacred Fire Creative. I would love it if you're watching this, if you would go ahead and share this video, or again, type any questions you have in the comments. Thanks so much, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Everyone. Thanks.